How you doing? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right, raise your hand if you're excited about learning a little bit about menopause. I was getting ready to say, if not, meet me outside. We need to talk, meet me outside. So, good afternoon. I'm Delayna Watkins, also known as the Wellness Maven, and now also known as the Unpaused Posse Princess, okay? Because we are unpausing this menopause. Okay. And just to tell you a little bit about me, I'm a certified, board-certified nurse, and my specialty is women's health. In the last 5 years, I have become a specialist around menopause and hormonal health. And that's out of my own personal journey. That was not something I woke up and just decided I wanted to be. I had my own lived experience that was very traumatic for me. And so because of that, I tried to figure out what was happening and what was going on with menopause before it became mainstream. And the unfortunate thing for me was I was going into it right before the pandemic. And I suffered in silence during the pandemic and really had no clue what was happening. And so at the same time, it was a blessing in disguise because it sat me down long enough to do the research and to do the work to figure it out so that I can stand before you today as someone who has really been able to dig behind what I call the science and soul of menopause. Like, what exactly is it? What is the first thing that you guys think about when somebody says menopause? Hot flashes. Listen. Why do you think I have like these cute? That's usually like my brand started out. Before Where's the Fan was a thing, that was my brand, right? So my brand was Where's the Fan, although now it's like Where Them Fans At, but my t-shirts were Where's the Fan. And creating these products, because for me it was a topic, it was a conversation starter, because that was the first thing that women would either experience. When we think of menopause, the first thing we think is misery and hot flashes, right? Followed by weight gain, and then the other litany of symptoms, right? That's usually the first two things that most women think about or have a discussion around menopause. Well, I want to change how we experience menopause and to give you some enlightenment around what menopause is. So I want you to know that menopause is along the natural biologic trajectory for women. You're going to go through menopause. There's 3 ways in which you can go through menopause. But as you come out on the other side, I want you to know, and you're going to snap it up with me, it's the feminine evolution. We are wiser, we are better. Our bodies go through transition, but it is truly the feminine evolution, okay? That's what it is. So what are the 3 ways that you can go through menopause? You can go through menopause naturally, and that means just this biologic process that the estrogen decrease. You no longer have a menstrual cycle after 12 consecutive months, okay? So if you go 12 months with no period, on the last day of that 12th month, you have crossed over from perimenopause, because that whole period leading up to that is considered perimenopause. When you wake up that next morning after that 12th month of no cycle, I'm getting ready to tell you. Y'all follow me? When you cross over then, wake up that next morning, you are now postmenopause. So you are technically only in menopause for 1 day. 1 day, because you go from perimenopause, that whole time leading up to your body changing, the cycles shifting, shorter, longer, heavier, more difficult, that whole time. That next morning after you wake up for going 12 months of no cycle, that one night you're in menopause, that next morning you wake up, you're now postmenopause, okay? That's very confusing for women. You are now postmenopausal. It doesn't mean that the symptoms go away. You're just no longer dealing with the cycle piece of it, okay? That's the biologic part, the estrogen, okay? That's the important part. So, that's biologically. You also can go through it surgically. How do you think you go through menopause surgically? Hysterectomy. Now, put a pin in it. What do you believe hysterectomy to be? What's happening?
They taking out half partial of your ovaries.
Okay, partial. I hear partial. And what did you say? Taking out your uterus. Anybody else? The whole package, right? So between you and you, there's something different between if they took out your whole package versus if you got a partial. The difference is you're going to wake up in menopause or post-menopause, okay? You're not. Why? Because if they leave in your ovaries, you are still producing estrogen. That is very important. Most times your surgeon nor your obstetrician does not explain that to you, which is why it's very, very difficult for women to understand what's happening to them. You have a question?
I had a partial, and it seemed like probably like 2-3 months after I started that hot flash.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yep. So what happens is, because you have a partial and you did not have your ovaries removed, it's called an oophorectomy if they take out your ovaries, okay? Your body will begin to transition, and oftentimes you probably within those 2 months still felt like you were going to get a cycle going through PMS and all that, right? So your body, the mechanics are still there, and I like to explain it like this, and this is how I talk to my husband about it. I tell him, I still got a playground down there. I got the monkey bars, the sliding board, the swing, and all that. I just can't produce nothing, and we can still have fun, okay? So that's exactly what it's like. So if you think of that analogy and somebody was talking about their husband wanting to know if they're in menopause, that's how you can explain it to them, okay? What you're going through, right? You can still do that. You can spin on the ride, you can get on the swing, you can do whatever you need to do. However, you're no longer able to reproduce. So that's what's happening when you go through and come on the other side of postmenopause, okay? The third way that you can go through or be put into menopause is surgically. If you are on certain medications, is medically. So surgically is having it removed. Medically is if you are on any type of chemo drugs. Oftentimes while you're on chemo, there's certain other medications that you can be placed on, but it's typically the chemo drugs. If you have been diagnosed with any type of cancer and they put you on radiation, can also do it. So that's how you can medically be placed into menopause. Typically while you're going through that, they should explain that to you. I feel like doctors, surgeons, OBGYNs are doing a better job of educating women about that now, letting them know what to expect around that, okay? So those are the 3 ways that you can go through perimenopause and menopause into postmenopause. So you heard me talk about it, right? How many phases of menopause are there? 3. So what's the first phase? Peri. So peri can last anywhere from 5 to 10 years. It really just depends. It depends on a couple of different factors. The first one is going to be genetics, okay? So if your mom is here, you typically will have a conversation with her. Again, I told you guys I went through mine sort of silently. My mom's no longer here. I was going into it through the pandemic, so I had to draw on my memory of what I saw her experience. My mom was also a nurse, so we, was in the healthcare space. I now know what she was experiencing, but she didn't have a clue what she was experiencing, right? All I saw her with was doing this with the penny saver, the paper plate, anything that she could pick up. She knew that that was the change, but the other 34 to 40 symptoms that I know that she likely was experiencing here and there, she had no clue that it was relative to perimenopause. She also had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a form of cancer. So a lot of symptoms that I just explained to you also were intensified because of that, and I know that she had no clue. So when we talk about the perimenopause, and when some women want to find out, oh, well, how long am I going to go through? When is this going to end? Girl, I don't know. I can't give you a finite point, but what I can tell you is that by us having this conversation and you being more knowledgeable, you'll have an idea of the symptomology that you're experiencing, and you'll begin to understand how to mitigate those symptoms that are relative to you. So genetics plays a role. So you're going to look at your maternal lineage, and that means even talking to your aunts, on the maternal side, especially if if those maternal aunts are also at high risk for breast cancer or have a history of breast cancer. A lot of those different factors play into it as well. Also, how many children you had, and then the age you were when you had your last child plays a role into the menopause as well. So if you were one of those women who had what we call late in life pregnancies, it's medically called a geriatric pregnancy. I don't like to use that word, but anytime you're over 35, right? 35 and older, if you had children later, that also plays into your experience around menopause. Do you want to think about why that is? So if I'm 35 and my body should be preparing for menopause, but instead I got pregnant, what do you think is happening? Yes, right? So biologically, you see how I'm explaining this to you in such a way that it's now going to start making sense to you about how reproductive-wise, what's happening and what's going on with you. All right, so that's perimenopause. Menopause is how long? Girl, one day. Wake up over there. That's like the important part. That's where I start with that. One day. Although when we're having this discussion, the first word we say is menopause, menopause, menopause. But it's technically just one day, biologically. And then the last phase is what? Postmenopause. And that's what you'll stay in for the remainder of your life. Okay, so after you go through that 12 months of no cycle, and then you wake up on, after that 12th month, that next day I told you you're in postmenopause, you're always going to refer to yourself as a postmenopausal woman, right? And that's important when you're taking history, when you are doing anything medically or clinically, you always want to make sure that they know that you're postmenopausal, okay? So that's what you kind of refer to yourself as for the remainder of your life, okay? So those are three phases: perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. Now, we know there's three ways you can get to it, and there's three phases of it. We know that hot flashes is a big deal. We know that weight gain is a big deal. So who are we blaming for all of that? Eve, where my E's at? Where my estrogen ladies at? Who's in the estrogen group? You remember? We blaming all of y'all that's in the estrogen group. So what's happening is your estrogen is slowly being depleted. Estrogen is queen and protein is king in my world, okay? So when we talk about estrogen being the dominant hormone, our hormones are like messengers and they need to have receptors. So when you are depleted in estrogen, the things that it typically would go to, it's no longer there to connect to. So those receptors don't have the estrogen to send messages to. This is why we have brain fog, the weight gain, hair loss, ear ringing, all of those various things that you're experiencing is relative to the decrease in estrogen. Now there's other hormones that's impacted as well: progesterone, insulin, the way our body handles insulin, and then cortisol. So again, when we think about the role of those particular hormones, it can explain why you end up having this pooch, why your metabolism is low, why you have, the extra weight gain, why you have the brain fog, why you have the low energy, why you don't have low libido, and you want to tell your man, get up out of here, I don't want to see that, and I don't want none of it, I don't want you playing with my playground, I ain't in the mood, why you have, drop. So when you really look at what the role of each of those hormones are, you can now kind of go like, okay, that makes sense, and do sort of like this check off as to why the fact that those hormones are impacted, why you're feeling the way you feel. Right? So kind of, does that make sense? So what are some of the experiences or symptomology that you guys are having that you're unsure of is related to menopause? Anything specific other than the top 5 that I named? Because there's some weird ones.
Yeah, mine.
What's yours?
Passing out.
Yes. So, okay. So when you...
I went and got a heart monitor, went to a neurologist, got an MRI on my brain. I thought I was having a stroke.
That was my story. So pretty much what she said is, when I told you guys that it was traumatic for me, without going into detail, is exactly what she said. And it was me passing out. So it was really fainting. I was sent home on a heart monitor. absolutely fine. Had to do a stress test on the treadmill, the whole 9 yards. Went for iron infusion, which that was part of it. Part of it was that I had low iron. But when we were able to take, and I like to explain this in such a way that we were taking sort of this giraffe view. Like my doctor, I've been with her for like 15 years, so she listened to every single thing that I had to say about what I was experiencing. But we were way up here. We were going running tests. We were, like I said, hooking me up to the heart monitor. We were thinking maybe, you know, again, I told you my mom had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. We were going down that road. Like, we were really doing a lot. However, we did not do the turtle view. Meaning we didn't get in there to really figure out what was going on. It took us nearly 18 months to figure out the only thing that was wrong was I was in perimenopause. All that, I won't say unnecessary, that's probably not a good word to use, but all of that research and poking and prodding and all of that we did, if she was better educated and if I was more informed, it would have probably stopped at month 1. We would have did the necessary testing to see that my levels of estrogen was just consistent with somebody who was in perimenopause at the time. During that time, it was very stressful. I left my job. I was still working in corporate at that time, but I was sort of doing what I'm doing now, standing in the room, doing the presentation, and my mind went blank. And it was a very important meeting in front of some very important people that were heads of this healthcare organization. And 2 things happened to me during that meeting. I had my very first hot flash, and my mind just went. From there, I just started to kind of isolate, didn't know what was going on, because in my mind, I'm using Dr. Google. I thought I had a stroke. I thought I was, get early stage dementia. Like, I'm going to Wikipedia MD, I'm going to Dr. Google, because although my, healthcare practitioner, again, like I said, love her to death, she was listening to me, she didn't even put it together to know how to connect these dots for me. So the both of us really were frustrated, in my opinion. I really felt like we were just kind of grasping at straws. And it wasn't until, again, I told you, pandemic set me down, and I just began to really, from the time I woke up in the morning, start to journal and figure out exactly what was going on, and just, really doing my research. And we would back and forth over the communication thing in my chart, talk about the various things. And then finally, she said, you may be perimenopausal. And then that's when we went through and just kind of started to really isolate stuff and really figure out that that's what was going on. But by that time, I had already left my corporate job. I had already begun to change so many things because I was frustrated, right? The forgetfulness, not being able to sleep, the insomnia was bad. It was bad. And remember, the pandemic, what are we doing? I mean, by that time, like I said, we had bought a bike. I was getting out, but it still wasn't the same. My socialization had gone downhill. It was just really bad. I had gained, I think, like 20, 25 pounds. It was horrible. It was just a horrible 18 months to 2 years. And so being able to sit down and really figure that out, I kind of became this sort of menopause like guru, like a specialist, because I figured like this: if I was suffering in silence, me, the wellness person, the person who, a fitness gets and goes out, I was telling Troy earlier, I was doing my same routine. Nothing changed. Eating habits, same. Workout, same. How am I gaining weight? Why was I 25 pounds overweight? And as women, we want to take that scale, bust somebody upside the head with it, throw it out the window, kick it and be like, is this working right? Step off, step back on, go to the bathroom and pee a little bit. We want to see like what's really happening, because for us, to see that, we're really trying to figure out, what am I doing? What am I not doing? Or what am I doing improperly? And 9 times out of 10, I can tell you, it really wasn't anything that you weren't doing necessarily. I just think that we just needed to understand what we had to do differently. And so now that you understand that your estrogen level is low, or is, kind of being depleted, that's what's contributing to a lot of the symptomology that you're feeling. The weight gain. So I like to explain the weight gain like this. So where'd she go at? Where'd the little firecracker go? Troy. So her metabolism is on 1,000, right? All throughout your year, she could probably eat something, run, and just be good, right? So we all know that normally like the routine. The older we get again, and as our hormones are adjusting, our insulin is, kind of doing this, our cortisol is doing something else. That fire, and I like to explain it like a stove, right? So we all know we want to cook. You want to simmer, right? When we're simmering, it takes what? Longer to cook, right? So the simmering is our metabolism. So right now, ours is probably on simmer. Some of ours might be turned up just a little bit. When we're going through perimenopause, her metabolism is on full flame. As we're losing estrogen, you turn it down just a little bit. So whatever you're cooking, it's gonna cook. It just ain't gonna cook in 5 minutes, right? It might now take 30 to 35 minutes because your metabolism is down here. So we have to make sure that the things that we're doing, the foods that we're eating, and the activities that we engage in is supporting all of that. And so I created the HER method as I was trying to figure that out. Now, I told y'all how frustrated I was at the fact that I was doing my exercises and doing things the same way and, pretty much eating the same foods. I'm pescatarian, and that just basically means I don't eat meat for the most part for some people who don't understand that. So I don't eat meat, and so none of that changed. My routine was my routine. What I didn't do, though, was change my protein. So when I said that estrogen is queen and protein is king. Protein, but also the source of your protein as well, makes a big difference in, how your body utilizes that. So I had to kind of like break all that down and figure all that out, understand about the metabolism and all of that. So all of that makes a big, big difference. When we're talking about estrogen, it's connected to even for us, for our bone health, bone, brain, belly, again, when we talk about the insulin resistance and all of that, estrogen is tied to a lot of that. So when vitamin D and vitamin C together helps us with the bone health. So as women, if you injure yourself, where Troy at? He broke his foot, or what did you break? Broke your leg. One of us injure a bone, when we're her age, we cast it up, we're out in 6 weeks, back doing backflips. Now, because of the calcium, the vitamin D, vitamin C, when we break a bone, what you think happens? It takes a lot longer to heal, right? When we move from one position to the next, take a little while. You get a little snap, crackle, little pop, right? So all of that is tied into, again, our hormones. And so what I want us to understand is that we can be empowered around that. So although that hormone is being depleted, I know you're probably looking at me saying, well then dang, just give me the estrogen back. I mean, is that simple, right? Why? Because that was my thought too. Oftentimes if we're missing something, why isn't it easy enough to then replace that? So you absolutely can. So there's what we call bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. So hormone therapy for the longest time was given like this negative connotation because there was a study that was done that identified that replacing hormones or estrogen specifically left women with an increased risk of breast cancer. So, but that study, unfortunately, there was a lot of flaws to it. We are, of course, as I told you, right, my research is around science and the soul of the menopause. There are a lot of different things that women can now get that are much safer for you specifically. But I always say that you want to individualize it and you want to take that turtle view, not that giraffe view, meaning what can you do? Have you done your hormone? Have you done your homework? Don't just run and say, give me the hormones. Have you done what's necessary, right? So there's lifestyle changes that you can do that will also mitigate your symptoms, right? And so when we talk about the symptoms, if I were to say to you, Tia, tell me some of the symptoms that you think might be related to menopause. Would you be able to, off the top of your head, identify some of the things that I just spoke about as it relates to potential menopausal symptoms?
Maybe,
right? How about you, Elizabeth?
The only thing that you didn't bring up, I had night sweats.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Night sweats. Itchy, dry skin. Right. You see. So now there's like ringing in the ears. There are 40 plus symptoms relative to menopause. The reason I bring that up is because from this day, and I got it on camera, got it on video, that I'm telling y'all this. So if I run into you in the street and I say, you didn't write this down, you don't have a journal, I'm gonna call you out on it. From this day forward, I want you all to start to journal or begin a note in your phone. Everybody has an electronic device. In there, if you don't have the health app or health section on your notes on your phone, I want you to start writing down the various things that you're experiencing or feeling. And the reason I say this is because when you go to the doctors, you're not telling them everything. You cannot separate what you think that is unimportant and not vocalize it and verbalize and tell them, because you thinking that your hair thinning because you got braids and, oh, I tried a new style, I had the wig on, so you don't mention it. You don't mention that you wake up in the middle of the night and you drenched. You don't mention that your arm hurt when you get up, so it take you 5 minutes, you gotta rotate it, or you hear some popping in your head. You don't mention that your skin is drier and now you're using Eucerin, on your skin, or a different oil regimen on your skin. You don't mention that after you eat certain foods, you feel nauseous, or whatever, right? You see how these are like little things that you wouldn't necessarily put together to think that it's important for the doctors to know, or your healthcare practitioner to know. It is. We need to make sure that all of the symptoms that you're experiencing, or the things that are different, even if at the time you don't know that it's a symptom of menopause, you need to know that it's different. If it's concerning to you, it needs to be important enough to mention to them, okay? So if it's concerning enough for you to say, this is different, or this happened, because believe it or not, hair thinning, some women develop alopecia, is relative to menopause, right? What are some other things? Foods that you used to like taste different now, can't stand it. What are some other things that you guys can think of? Anxiety is huge. Depression is huge, right? So those are, I told you there's physiological and there's psychological impact, that the two buckets that those symptoms fit in. They're either physiological or they're psychological. So the mood swings, that was another big thing that impacted me with my role at work, being one of the people that of course had to interact with other doctors, physicians and things like that, and were constantly coming at me. I didn't want to talk to those people. I was irritated. Stop talking to me. Stop talking to me. Stop talking to me. Like I literally was there. So that, and women would think, is there something wrong with me? Like what is happening? And then the insomnia. So you can kind of go in a cycle where, again, you're not eating right, you're not sleeping right, you're gaining weight, you're having a night sweat, you're having the hot flashes, you can't think, you can't concentrate, you're irritated, you're agitated, you're aggravated, all of that. Yeah, the crying, watching commercials on TV. Why in the hell am I crying about an oatmeal commercial? What is happening? Yes, like what is happening? Like all of these things. You just talk about like different, yeah.
The rage.
Yes, the rage, and you're trying to figure it out, and if you have a significant other, they're looking at you like you damn crazy. So, but all of that is very valid. All of that is very valid, and I'm glad that, again, that we're here and that we're laughing about it and that we're having this light banter conversation, but it's very real. And when you think about what is it that I can do, how can I change this, and what can I do to mitigate it? And part of it is, like I said, number one, being here and understanding. The second piece of it is what I'm experiencing is going to be different than what you're experiencing and what you're experiencing. You have to be empowered over your own experience. And when I say empowered, I mean empowered to the point that you know what's going to be effective for you, and you know what's going to be ineffective for you. But you can't do any of that if you're not able to articulate what you're experiencing. So that's the important piece of it. You have to be able to articulate what you're going through. If you're going into, let's say, come see me as a menopause consultation, and the first part of what I spend talking to my clients about is just that. I just want to hear your lived experience. From the moment you wake up, you're running me through your entire day. I literally want to know what you're doing, what you're eating, what you're feeling, who you're talking to, how. Like, we have to break down, because when we first wake up, we usually don't have time to think about it. When our feet hit the floor, we're moving, we're going, and we're showing up in all the places and all the spaces, all the roles and all the responsibilities, but we're usually not taking up enough time to really figure out that from the time you woke up and did whatever you did, you probably experienced 5 different things relative to menopause. We usually just continue and press through and press on and show up, because that's the expectation of whoever's on the opposite end waiting for us to show up in that place and in that space, right? And then we're not spending that time to really figure out what the heck it is I'm going through. So when you do that, when you actually show up, I know you're gonna say, well, Delayna, well, all right, now I understand I got the nice sweats, I got the hair thinning, I got the itching. What can I do about it? How do I mitigate it? What do I do? Part of it, as I said before, is gonna be relative to your estrogen. The other part of it is, what are some of the triggers that you're experiencing that you have the power to shift and change? For me, when my hot flashes were intense, I had to look at there's 4 things that can intensify your hot flash. So listen up. Alcohol, sugar, spices, hot, right? And salt. Sugar, salt, spice, and alcohol. And smoking. Salt. Yeah, salt. So, smoking. So if you smoke, smoking truly intensifies it, because smoking, it creates so let me back up. Hot flashes, as now we probably all know, is called BMS, vasomotor symptom, right? Because of Bioza, the commercial that kind of came out a few months ago. So what's happening with that is it's constricting. So when we smoke, it's mimicking that same behavior. And so as a result of that, it'll intensify your hot flash. So if you're a smoker, it will intensify your hot flashes. Alcohol, same thing, okay? Sugar, same thing. You should be decreasing and avoiding that, kicking that to the curb anyway. I mean, on the strength of just the fact that our bodies really don't process sugar well anyway, okay? Salt, just because as you are going through perimenopause into menopause, your cardiovascular system, right? This is why a lot of women that are in this bracket of 40 plus have a higher risk of cardiovascular, heart attack, stroke, things of that nature. So salt plays a huge role in that as well. Pre-hypertensive, things of that nature, right? Or if you're already hypertensive. And then back to the sugar, if you're pre-diabetic, that impacts your insulin. Too much sugar on board makes your pancreas work as hard, you're releasing insulin. So all of it is just like a big cluster. It's a big storm that our hormones are going through. So we have to create this, what I call hormone harmony. We have to balance it out. Anything that you realize that you are depleted in, you want to try to correct that. So the hormone groups that I told you guys about that I want to put you in, the estrogen, the cortisol, the insulin, progesterone, and then also testosterone. We have 2 men in the room. Testosterone is their kings, right? Estrogen is our queen. Testosterone is their king. But we also have testosterone as well. We don't have it to the degree or to the level that they have it, but when I talked about earlier about that low libido, that's tied directly to testosterone, okay? Which is our sexual drive and strength and all that, that's tied to the testosterone. So understanding your symptoms also helps your doctor or your primary care provider, your menopause specialist, to help you to know which one of those particular hormones you may be out of balance for you, right? So it's like you remember in school when you had to do the matching up, this symptom was that, so you pretty much are doing the same thing. but you can't do that if you're not understanding what symptoms you're experiencing, okay? So 85 to 90% of women that are in menopause at some point get put on antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication. So they're called SSRIs. For some women, it does help because, again, it helps to regulate your hormones that kind of, again, may be off. But at the same time, there's some natural things that you can do outside of being put on SSRIs or antidepressants. That's all tied into your reproductive health and your experience and being pregnant and having the endometriosis leading into it, and then the hysterectomy. So how you experience it is going to be totally different than, again, but you have to do you.
Because you probably have to be my
Yeah. you just get into our group. We got the Black Women in Menopause group. It's like 10,000. Yeah. You want to be able to streamline it.
Hematologist, endocrinologist, arthritis doctor, orthopedic. I'm like, his joint pain is a part of perimenopause. I'm spending a lot of money to be here, and we talking about
all of it and putting it together. Sleep hygiene is big. It's big, 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 big. And guess what happens when you're asleep? Your cells regenerate. Right? You also lose weight while you sleep too. I just thought I'd throw that out there too. But definitely the big one is your cells regenerate. Now, this side over here, I'm gonna call y'all the sleep, but I wake up tired. This side over here, I'm gonna call y'all the sleep, and I feel good when I wake up. What's the difference between the two? These people over here got into what's called REM sleep. Okay, so REM. Yes, it's rapid eye movement. So that's where you get to the part where you are actually asleep. All the tabs in your brain are closed, and you are night-night. Y'all over here, y'all sleep hygiene is bad. You probably watch TV until you fall asleep. You probably on your laptop, your phone, TikTok, Instagram. So your brain stays engaged. Your sleep hygiene is poor, and so you're not really getting to what's called REM sleep. So you might have been in the bed for 7 hours. So if I say to you, so what time are you going to bed and what time are you waking up? You all cute and telling me you getting into bed at 10 and not getting up until 7. So I'm like, okay, but you're not really sleeping for those hours. You're not really resting. Whereas on this side, they are really getting in the bed. They are really creating this sleep environment. Their sleep hygiene is good. If needed, they do the magnesium glycinate, get to where they need to get to. They wake up in the morning, they feel good. Your sleep could be interrupted because you're having night sweats. Or it could be interrupted because you're getting up going to the restroom a few times, right? Throughout the night. So you really have to individualize and look to see where you are. Sleep is very, very important. It breaks the cycle. So if your sleep is impacted, it will not allow you to show up creatively. That's where the mood swings, the anxiety, your creativity, your ability to focus, all of that is impacted. And then you're eating, how your body processes food, all of that. So when we say that you really need those many hours of sleep, it's not just you being in the bed where you're like, okay, I'm gonna count that because I got in the bed at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. No, you really need to be sleeping for that time. Now, I have some women that say, well, I sleep for 4 and then I wake up for 1 and go back. Does that count? It's the quality of the sleep. So whatever impacted you to have to wake up to begin with, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you have to use the restroom, are you immediately falling back to sleep? Or are you, awake and you're sitting there and you're counting sheep, or you're playing on your phone until you fall back to sleep, right? So sleep hygiene is important. It's very important, especially for us, again, as we're talking about that furnace being out. You need all that energy to reboot, to get up, to be productive for the next day, all right?
I kind of feel, this is great education, I kind of feel like how OBGYN failed us.
Yeah.
That is your female doctor that should say.
But they got failed. If I'm being completely honest, they were failed and bamboozled as well. I'm gonna speak up for them. They're getting empowered now, but they were failed as well.
Now I had a doctor years ago. He did ask me, when did my mom go through it? Like you said, my mom wasn't educated, so she didn't tell us. So from that point, I started researching, and I went to a vitality clinic.
Yes.
And they did all of this blood work. They would tell me different vitamins that I was missing. But the one thing I didn't like, they had this thing that looked like a grain of rice, and they wanted to put a slit down my butt and put that in.
Oh, you should have did that.
No, I shouldn't have.
Yes.
I should have.
That is a hormonal pellets.
Well, that's what they said. And
That is a game changer for us.
79, and back then that was probably
Correct. So that goes back to the bioidentical. So I'm sorry, just for you guys, if you didn't hear what she said. So hormonal pellets is where they put like a small slit and then they insert underneath the skin some hormonal pellets that will automatically within like 72 hours make you feel like you're her age again. However, as long as they did the history, the blood work, I don't say to everybody, again, I always say you have to make sure that you are individualizing this. So I won't blanketly say, you get one and you get one and you get one. I will never do that because how you experience it is definitely different, right? Because again, there's some specific things that we can do, but it is definitely a game changer, especially in the African American community for us. It's definitely a game changer.
the whole packet. They even told me I should have went to like a life coach. That was psychological.
Absolutely. Remember I said physiological and psychological. So absolutely, it is a game changer. And
I just want to say that this is very affirming for me because I have done all the things like show up, do the all the specialists, do the research. But the pellet thing is interesting. I literally had that offered to me as an option with my GYN recently, like 2 weeks ago. However, as my hair's been falling out, you know, the weight gain.
Yeah.
So we got to the pellets. I currently wear a patch, right?
Okay. Transdermal patch.
Projection patch I wear. Really helps me try to get it really helped with my sleep after a while. The hips and stuff kind of decrease that. However, the pellets, this is what she said to me. She said, I don't do the pellets, but I can send you to office does because they have to follow, you know, blood.
Follow up with the levels, right.
But I have to tell you one of the symptoms, which is clitoral agromaly.
Okay.
So my response was, so I'm gonna be fat, bald-headed, and get a penis. That is not on my bingo card.
That was, right.
It's not on my bingo card. Sure, but so I'm probably will talk to you after this because I want to know.
Right.
And you said it's, and I also know there's a difference between African American women. We have
Absolutely.
more intense and longer. But I had no idea that was.
Yeah, and you don't have to keep, so with the pellets, they usually will bring you back like in the beginning, a little bit more frequently, and then they'll continue to test your levels because you may need to kind of get it boosted. It's really gonna depend. But again, back to what I was talking about with the African Americans, how it's been such a huge shift for us, you know that we're left out of research a lot. So oftentimes, when they say, just like with Bioza, right, they advertise this as being so great, but when we look at where our representation was in the 4 or 5 year long study, I think there was maybe this many women, I think like 12, if that, throughout the study. So what may have been, in the end, pegged as a game changer in the space of hot flashes, you gotta remember, we should have been this many because we go through it longer and it's more intense. So if you're gonna sell me something and tell me that it works for me, prove to me that it works for me by showing me that the end result was women that looked like me that went through it. So having said that, when you look at it and outweigh the side effects to that, just give me a fan. Because you can't honestly tell me that me taking this particular drug is gonna net me the rewards of the potential side effects of going through it. So when we look at research, and it's getting better, so all of this isn't ho-hum glum, it's getting better because we're having the conversations and they realize that we have to be represented and we have to show up in these spaces for that so that we can be better represented. But the pellets, been around, been out there, and yes, we are finally, the OBGYNs, they were failed as well because part of their education you would have thought would have really been on this part of the trajectory of a reproductive health, but it wasn't. Most OBGYNs say that they spent more time probably not talking about menopause than they did. Most of their time is spent on the early reproductive years leading up to then. Yeah. So they're getting now, in real time, educated and informed around it. So I would give them grace. Honestly, I'd give them grace. And what I'm finding though is that they're realizing it and are at least asking the questions. And then if they don't know, they're referring to people that do. So, which is why back to my point about being empowered, writing down, saying what you need to say, and if you don't feel like it, then go for a second opinion, find an expert in that particular area. Like, we have to make sure we're empowered. When you leave, if you feel as frustrated as you were when you walked in, if you feel as, I still don't feel like my needs have been met. I'm not even sure if I know more now than I did when I first came in. You start looking for or ask to be referred then to someone else, because the OBGYN, that is their specialty. However, at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're specialized in that particular thing. Okay, I'm a firm believer that when we see and we know, it makes us now say, like what he said, like, I thought I was good because I'm getting this. Puts focus on the fact that no, you're not getting good quality sleep, and that you really need the good quality sleep. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna transition. I'm gonna talk about one last thing, and then we can transition into doing the demo. And I want to give you the HER method around MenoFit. But the last thing that I want to kind of share with you is when we think about nutrition. So how many of you guys struggle with nutrition, like what to eat, what am I eating, what am I not eating, what should I eat, less of this, that, and the third. So that's a whole other kind of, she said I just don't eat.
So
Wrong thing.
Don't eat enough.
Right, wrong thing, yeah. So I just kind of do two things, and it's really just a high level. Remember I talked about the giraffe view, where this is a high level giraffe view, but in later workshops, you can work with me, you can follow me on social media. I talk more like the turtle view, which means I'm going to tell you more specifically what to eat. But when I talk about just giving you, when we're able to shut out the noise and just make things simpler for us, when we're thinking about kind of like what to eat and what should I put on my plate, what should I leave, in the grocery store as I'm shopping, I want you to think of it as this side being crap and this side being crow. So crap is chemical, refined, artificial, and processed. So anything that comes in a box, a bag, a carton, or whatever, and got more than 5 ingredients on it, likely falls in the crap category. All right? The crow, I want to eat more of you. That's clean, raw, organic, and whole. Meaning that it didn't start out in a manufacturing plant, sit on somebody's shelf, and then sit on your shelf. Okay? It grew from a plant, and then now you're consuming it, okay? So I want to eat more plant-based instead of manufactured plant-based, right? So this is plant, because let's think about it. They have to put ingredients in there so that they can manufacture it, so it can go sit on all these giant shoppers, wherever you're going to get it from, and then go from their shelf now into your pantry and sit there for a little longer. So what do you think your body's trying to figure out with all these various? It's trying to break down the MS4, F5, F3, F2, control, alt, delete. It's trying to break that down. It's like trying to figure that out. Like, what are we doing? While I'm also still, what it honestly is. Control, and so for us, not good. Over here, y'all crow people, love you. Because I can easily identify some broccoli, something that's clean, that's raw, that's organic, that's whole, got a couple ingredients on it, I can read it and be like, oh, okay, this was in it, this was in there. My body, so if I understand it, when I eat it, what do you think my body's like? Oh, girl, thank you, give me a little bit more of that, we can process that and get it on through, and let's do what we need to do, okay? My body isn't having to work so hard over here.
That's great.
It ain't having to work so hard, that way I can go sleep. Yes. Over here, because I'm eating that crap and trash, it's still trying to figure, you trying to go sleep, it's trying to figure out what you just fed it. It's still trying, it's in control, alt, delete mode. It's trying to still process, okay? So therefore your brain can't work and your body can't rest. Crap, crow. Okay, crab crow. So there's more to break down, obviously, and tell you what kind of food and stuff like that, but we ain't got time for that. Not today, not on Saturday, because y'all gonna do a little bit of demo in about 3, 4, 5 minutes. All right, so let me just tell you what the HER method is, and then we'll break up into those groups, and we'll just do some brief fitness demos, because I'm a firm believer that when you understand, so that's why this workshop before the workout was presented in this way. So now that you're like, oh, Delayna talked about the, oh, she talked about this, and oh, she talked about that. Now I understand it. So the HER method stands for hormones, exercise, and response. So how many of you guys go to the gym and get on the treadmill or Stairmaster or elliptical, some kind of cardio when you go to the gym, right? Most of us at some point, right? Most women, especially if you're not working with a personal trainer. Why? Because it's easy. We can step up on that bad boy, hit the little thing, and do our little thing.
I used to go to Planet Fitness, but now I started here.
Right. See, that's different. Right. Planet Fitness is like a playground. That's me. I call it the playground because, you go in there, you're showing up for gym class. You can get in there and you really don't need a whole bunch of guidance. You can kind of go in there and figure it out. Or if not, you stand in the corner, act like you're getting a water bottle and watch somebody do it, and then you be like, all right, I'm going to go do what she's doing, or I'm going to do what she's doing, right? So that's typically how we do, but in our mind, we know that we need to move, and we know that we need to do something, and we will go to something that's non-threatening or that's easy. It's, pretty simple for us to figure out. So when you're on that treadmill or on the Stairmaster or on the, again, we use some type of cardio elliptical machine, what are you hoping happens when you get off of it?
Burn some calories.
Huh? Burn some fat, burn some calories. What you hoping happen while you on it? Burn some fat. Well, how you determine it? When you get off, what you say? Where that fat at? Where that calorie at? What I burn? So how do you measure it? How do you?
I guess sweat.
Boom. The sweat. The caliber of the sweat, right? Because again, it goes back to what we can see. Just like with a hot flash, and just like with that scale I talked about, the weight, it's something that we can see. But you have no idea what's happening on a cellular level, right? So when we get to this stage, remember I talked about the furnace, right? I talked about the metabolism. Cardio ain't where it's at. It's part of it. I'll never tell you not to do cardio, right? But it's a type of cardio, and it's the way that you're doing it, and it's why you're doing it. So as women, in order to get that metabolism, that fat burn, we have to increase our heart rate into the burn zone, the fat burn zone. Raise up that resting heart rate. If you're on the treadmill, now who said they get on the treadmill? You and then you. When you're on the treadmill, are you out of breath?
Yeah, sometimes.
Girl. Nuh-uh, girl. You had to think about it. You should say, yeah, I'll be out of breath. Now, when you're on the treadmill, are you out of breath? Or are you able to have a conversation and talk to me? Girl, get off the treadmill. Okay? Get off of it. I don't want you talking to me. When you're on the treadmill, you need to be, and I'm not saying to run, increase the incline and maybe the speed just a little bit. You need to be on there like, that's raising your heart rate. They're walking like this, and you talking to mama, and y'all having a conversation. Girl, get off of that treadmill. What are you doing? No, you calculating the minutes. So you can say, well, I was at Planet Fitness today for 30 minutes. That's all you're doing. No, I would never negate or downplay your exercise. Never, because you're moving, because you're out there. But what I want you to do is maximize the time that you are making the effort to get into it, which means for the 20 or the 30 minutes that you're doing on the treadmill, the 20 to 30 minutes, maximize it. Do some resistance. Again, do the incline. Make sure you're getting in some resistance training, some strength training. Why is all that important? You have to determine with your journey, where are you at? What are you eating? All of that plays into it. I heard you say that that's what you used to do until you came to Passport. Now you incorporated some things that you likely would not have done while you were at Planet Fitness, right?
Not by myself.
Right, definitely. And definitely the working out and understanding what you're able to do. And sometimes just being in community will push you, right? Being in community will allow you to say, well, well, if she can do it, I can do it. Well, when she came in here a month ago, she couldn't lift up a weight. Now she's doing, arm curls or whatever, bench presses. So when we talk about her response, it's the hormone, it's the exercise, and then it's the response. So there's specific exercises that invoke specific hormones, and it's the response that we want. So we have to understand that, right? So there's 4, really 5, but 4 that we focus on, primarily estrogen, progesterone, insulin, and cortisol for us. Again, testosterone is there, it's important, but doesn't quite rise to the level of those other 4, okay? So with that in mind, I want us to think about hormone harmony. I want you to think about, there's times that I work out that I don't necessarily sweat, right? I'm more focused on my strength training, resistance training, and things of that nature. So it's not always, if I don't see myself dripping with sweat, that I didn't put in the work, because I truly put in the work, but on that particular day, I'm focused on a particular hormone and a particular response and a particular outcome, okay? So I don't want you to gauge that if you're not sweating or if you're not doing something specific, or that you don't see, because remember, we visual. Yes, I can go to the gym like this and leave out like this. Yes, I can. One eyelash might be a little crooked because I'm in there working out. But oftentimes we want to see, like for us, it's like, am I dripping sweat? Am I, I'm not a big sweater anyway, but however, that's not always, it's, did you get into your fat burn? Did you raise your heart rate? Were you targeting a specific area? For us women, what's the main thing we want to work on? Right? And the first thing we do, how many of y'all do crunches and sit-ups and all of that? Right? Yeah, because it's something that we say to us, if it's the abdomen, I want to, make sure I focus on that. Cortisol is to, need to be targeted. We're going to transition into actually doing a demo of those particular movements that will help with that, and then why. The reason why this works is because we're here together. So in the end, you do the first 2 exercises separately, and then we try to do what we call a partner exercise for the 3rd round, okay? So that's why you'll see something and it'll say partner, because it's something that together you do in your specific group, okay? All right. Amongst your group and find out why you did what you did for each group. So this is kind of in lieu of our cool down as we're like decreasing our heart rate, right? So as I told y'all, we're gonna snap it up because this is the feminine evolution, right? Menopause is just part of the transition to our bodies being empowered, all right? So the cards is here to kind of remind us of that and educate us about that.
Health and menopause. Menopause can lead to a decrease in bone density, increasing the risk of osteoporosis. Weight-bearing exercises, calcium and vitamin D are essential.
Oh, my card says surround yourself with people who understand your journey, share experiences with friends, join menopause groups, and seek professional support when needed.
Journaling can be a therapeutic way to reflect on your menopause journey. Write down your thoughts, symptoms, and any changes you notice. It can help track progress and offer emotional relief. I am grateful for this time of self-reflection and personal growth.
My prayer is that you all picked up some nugget, have a sense of some encouragement, empowerment, and a sense of community through today's MENOFIT 360. So again, I'm available. I got, of course, some cute stuff over here. Those menopause cards are available, as well as the cute, you know me, I gotta be cute and cool, okay? If I'm gonna have a hot flash in public, I'm gonna not be, you know, listen, I gotta have bling bling.